just let that run its course. Here I am. Here we go. What's going on, everybody? It is Tuesday, March 14th, and this is the latest edition of Nick Valencia Live. And we're live here. We've got a great set of guests here today. We actually had another group of guests lined up, but it switched out and it changed. And actually, I think much for the better, because there's breaking news developments that we want to get to. But you might have started, or you might have seen how this show started with this right here. We are going to be hosting our first in-person event in Los Angeles, actually more specifically in Montebello. On March 24th, we'll be at BLVD Market, Boulevard Market. The owner and proprietor, Barney Santos, has been kind enough to open his doors for us here, and we're going to be hosting our show, Nick Valencia Live, in person, starting at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., and then afterwards we'll be just hanging out, mingling, vibing out. We invite you to join us, to chill, come support the Montebello Food Hall, grab your drinks, grab your food, and watch a live show. We're going to have some special guests as well, but on the agenda for sure, in the lineup is Gustavo Arellano. He is an LA Times columnist. I don't need to introduce you guys to him. Plenty of you guys know who he is already, especially you've been following me. He's been on the show a couple times already. We also, really excited to announce, have Alexis Aleman. He's one half of Foods and Medicine, the really popular social media account that follows the stories, the journeys of medical school students who are also first-generation Americans. And so it's a really compelling narrative, really awesome journey to follow along with. He's going to be there as our second guest, and then Barney will say a thing or two. We also had previously, we had confirmed Father Greg Boyle, and he is the leader of Homeboy Industries. He's been in Los Angeles for a long time. Let me get this here off the stage. He's been in LA for a really, really long time. And, he's somebody that really, doesn't need any introduction. Father Greg Boyle is sort of, I hate to say he was confirmed, and now he's not really confirmed at this point, but we're hoping to get at the very least, a special message from him. We're also going to get a special message from, it's kind of hard to say, special message. We're also going to get some special messages from some other folks that are LA faces and natives, and we'll have much more on that ahead. Okay, let's pivot to what's going on today, though. And we woke up this morning to this report here in Georgia. You might have seen it late last night, but let's take a look at what WSB had to say about it.
Sewer to the building off. Officials say they do not have the capacity to. Channel 2 has confirmed the city has cut the water and sewer to the building off. Officials say they do not have the capacity to handle the demands, and they want to know how the federal government plans to do that without negatively impacting local residents.
So that is regarding this story here. A facility in Social Circle, Georgia, which is about an hour outside of Atlanta. It is where ICE wants to build the latest warehouse, and they want to build a huge facility that would basically triple the size of the small town that they want to build it in. The warehouse that you're looking at used to be owned by a company called PNK or Pink. The next guest will probably correct me on that, Gareth Fenley. She joins us in just a little bit here. But some more background on this facility. It's one of the many facilities that we've seen the federal government purchase at much higher of a cost than it was appraised at. 30% higher, 230% higher in some cases. This site was appraised at much lower of a value, and the feds bought it with the intention of turning it into the largest, when it will be finished, they want it to be the largest detention facility in the nation. I mentioned our guest. She has been very active, a huge voice, a huge advocate for the small town and the community and how it's been impacted. Because let's be clear, this is all about how this impacts working class people, everyday people. It's a town of 5,000 people. And Gareth lives just on the outskirts, 9 miles away from where this facility is going to be. Gareth, you join us now live on Nick Valencia Live. Thank you so much for taking the time with us. Tell me what I'm missing here in the story and what we may not understand about it, those that are just learning about it for the first time.
Well, thanks, Nick, and thanks for having me on. The Department of Homeland Security created a secret plan. They didn't want the public to know anything about it, and we found out about it through a leak to the press. Thank goodness for the press. We found out about it through a leak in December, and we got more information about it through more leaks in January. And the latest news is that the city of Social Circle, with the full backing of the city council has cut off all water supply to the site of this particular warehouse site. The Department of Homeland Security is trying to buy 24 of these warehouses around the United States and convert them into detention centers, which is just an appalling atrocity. These detention centers are going to be housed in giant industrial warehouses that were built for companies that want to ship packages, like, for example, Amazon, and they were never intended for human occupancy and habitation.
That's part of what I saw in my coverage during Trump 1.0 is these former Walmarts that had been closed down or warehouses that had been left empty, and they converted them into places where they housed minors. HHS ends up taking that sort of lane when minors are involved, but it's something that's sort of like an old blueprint. It just seems like the Trump administration is ramping up the scale of it. Where does Social Circle fit in sort of the national picture of all of this?
Well, Social Circle is a tiny little town in Georgia, used to be on a state highway, and now it's bypassed. So it's really out of the way, minding its own business. And all of a sudden, inside city limits where this warehouse had been constructed, the Department of Homeland Security, we found out, was in the process of purchasing it. And then they did purchase it from this company. You had it right, PNK, which was actually owned by an investor with Russian money. The investor sold that land with the warehouse on it for $128 million to the Department of Homeland Security with our tax money. The $128 million was paid for a property that was assessed at probably somewhere around $60 million. So they paid way, way more with our tax money for this secret plan than could be justified any other possible way.
And what you're looking at here is an article from the Covington News, a local newspaper that it was one of the first to talk about this facility that was bought for millions and millions of dollars over the amount it was appraised at now is going to be turned into the latest ICE detention facility. And Gareth has been on the front lines fighting this. What's action been like, and what's the response been from the local community?
Well, thanks for acknowledging our work here in Walton County and Newton County, Georgia. We are trying to resist it every possible way, starting even when we just had the leaks, when we didn't even know 100% for sure, but we had leaked information, and we have had protests, we have had meetings, we have had a variety of different ways to bring together residents who are both conservative and liberal. The Walton County community is predominantly conservative. Here in Social Circle area, about 70% of the voters voted for Trump and vote Republican pretty reliably of those who are voting.
That something? And now they don't want the ICE.
But they're completely united that they don't want. They're completely united that they don't want the detention center in their city limits because it completely overwhelms the utility capacity and the local public capacity to handle things like traffic and law enforcement and hospital visits.
Well, for me, to be fair, it's like you vote for issues until they impact you directly. This is a community that voted for this, and now it's going to be coming to them and they don't want it. And that's what I think when I hear these types of stories. I do offer grace to people who, see the light and see the way, but it's also yet another circumstance that emphasizes the point that we don't care about things until they directly impact us as individuals. Last night, we heard this news about sewage and water being cut off because it's going to have a strain on it. Part of this, Gareth, correct me if I'm wrong, is the secrecy of all of this. The city officials can't get their hands around exactly how this is going to be used or really what the details are.
Yes, you're right. And, I myself am a progressive, I'm a Democrat, and I have found that talking with my conservative neighbors, they care too, but they are getting completely different information. They're not listening to Nick Valencia. They're listening to other media sources that have direct impact on what they believe. I was at a community meeting just a couple of nights ago when a community member stood up and said he was very afraid and angry about the detention center because he believes President Trump, who says these are going to be the worst of the worst. These are going to be rapists and murderers, and there's going to be 10,000 violent rapist murderers confined in a warehouse right near the elementary school. And he said this was scary and that he wanted to protect his family and that this detention center should be put in a supermax somewhere in a remote area.
Wow.
Because he listens to a different media. He doesn't understand the fact that the people who are going to be detained, the people who are being detained, have no criminal record. And if they have a criminal record, it goes back years and it's been resolved, or it's something on the order of traffic tickets. There's a very, very small number of violent criminals who are also undocumented, and they're taken care of by the local law enforcement agencies. Right in our district, so many people who are conservative remember the name Laken Riley. She was a young college student who was killed by someone who happened to be an undocumented immigrant. And the thing is, what happened? The local police tracked down the killer, apprehended him. He was prosecuted and convicted by the local authorities. That's the way it works with violent crime in America.
Yeah, he was adjudicated and he was found guilty for his heinous crime. And no one, not especially this platform, is standing up for those violent criminals. We are here standing up, though, for those that add value to this country. And it's pretty clear that the Trump administration has made cruelty as their point of policy here when it comes to immigration. What is the point of all of this here with Social Circle, you think, expanding this infrastructure? Why Georgia and why a facility of this size, Gareth?
It's not only Georgia, it's 23 different sites around the United States, ranging all over the country. And so Georgia just happens to be one of the places that the Department of Homeland Security picked on the map. We can't understand the reasoning. What we're trying to do is tie this decision to Kristi Noem. As you know, she's on the outs. She has been released. She has been fired. And the Senate tomorrow is holding a confirmations hearing for someone to replace her. And we are hoping that the U.S. senators will grill that next nominee to find out, is he willing to abandon and back off this terrible plan to expand detention massively with these huge, completely inappropriate warehouses?
And you have to think who's getting paid off of all of this, because it is, at the end of the day, a private prison infrastructure where people are the product. And every day they get money on a person that's in that bed that they want to keep full. So if you can, tie it into Kristi Noem, we've heard the potential of corruption and, backdoor dealings and backslapping, things like that. It'd be fascinating to see if there was any financial ties to personal affiliates of people in the orbit of leadership in the administration. Look, you talked to her, you talked about how she's on the outs. She's certainly in the eyesight of people who are looking at litigation. And, it's a very convenient scapegoat. We know that Trump never suffers any consequences and they always get used up and spit out. Kristi Noem had her moment, Now Social Circle, though, is suffering. And I really want to come back to this because this is about the working class people of a community. It's not left or right. Clearly, this is an issue that impacts anybody who lives there, no matter how they vote. What kinds of impacts are being seen or are being worried about?
Well, it's possible that property values will plunge, that people's property cannot be sold away from them if they decide to move away, that we won't have new people wanting to move into the community because it'll be prison town. So it's really going to cause a very negative effect on the economy of the town if this detention center is opened. And we are doing everything we can to try to stall it out and stop it from happening.
And so this kind of happened under the cover of darkness, right? With PNK, like, what do they have to say about all of this? This Russian funded company, you said? Fill me in on all this.
Well, not being an independent investigator myself, I can't say that I've turned up everything in the paper trail, but we have to thank independent journalists like yourself who are bringing the truth to light and digging into these stories and finding out what's going on undercover, because the Department of Homeland Security tried to slip this in without telling anyone. It was on the night of January 13th. I was sitting here at my computer late at night and happened to get a tip. An anonymous tip came across my screen saying there's going to be a DHS site visit tomorrow in Social Circle.
Wow.
I immediately, late in the evening, called one of my activist friends and we agreed together, we're going to do a protest. So that next morning, it was Wednesday morning in January on a cold and rainy morning, early morning at 8:30, we were there in a parking lot assembling and then made our way over to the site of the warehouse to have a big protest. Big for us. There were 30 people there that came on virtually no notice on an anonymous tip. So we activists are acting and independent journalists are investigating. And if it weren't for us, if it weren't for people like you and me, the entire country would be in the dark. They wouldn't know about this.
And it's caught my attention. Aaron Parnas, I'll give him credit and give his flowers, where I see them. I mean, he's a phenomenal communicator, and he's really been drilling down on this in the last 24 hours. It caught my attention because I'm an hour away, and I think, hey, look, there's more that needs to be done out here right in my backyard, right? And right where I live. I've been following this all across the country. What are some of the things, for those people that are just joining us? This is Gareth Finley. She is an activist who has been on the front lines in protesting Social Circle, the site of where ICE wants to build the latest detention center. And the community is pissed off. It's going to triple the size of it and strain resources. What are the other issues? Okay, you mentioned property value, not being able to resell. I want to dig more into this. I voted for Trump, and now he's bringing this policy I voted for to my backyard, and I don't like it. What do you hear from those folks?
They're saying that they support detention, that they believe that people are in the United States illegally who were, I don't want to repeat all these talking points,
Sure.
that were let in by Biden, and that they use very offensive language, that people are, quote, running free. They talk about undocumented immigrants as almost as if they were animals in herds, that they are these wild rapist murderers who are destroying our towns and our communities. They are not in touch with reality because they are basing their information on media that's reporting lies instead of the truth. And
Yeah.
so when something like this suddenly appears within their city limits, it's very startling and scary to them. They're ordinary people who care about their families. They just want to make a living and have a satisfying life. And when something like this suddenly appears with the federal government not telling them what's going on, it's extremely disorienting to these folks.
Propaganda is effective. That's why it's used as a tool. It's like people sometimes they don't realize what they're being convinced to until they have to deal with the realities. And look, there's been litigation over this stuff. I want to bring this up. This is part of 3 lawsuits that have been filed. These go back to February. They aren't new. They're weeks old. But tell us about what these are.
Well, those are some lawsuits that are working on in Hall County. That's just up the road about an hour. And there's also litigation that may be going forth in Social Circle. We really can't say for sure exactly what's happening next. There are many efforts to work behind the scenes, every possible way, contacting elected officials, using lawsuits, using something as simple as a lock on the water meter to keep them from turning on the water. We're using every way we can think of to try to get the Trump administration to walk back on this plan and admit that this plan was not well conceived. It won't work. And for any reason you can think of, detention center is not welcome here.
What's the remedy then, Gareth? Like with these, violent offenders, they've got to be housed somewhere. They would probably argue that they're going to go to Social Circle. You have these residents who voted for this and still supported the policy. So where do they say that something like this should go?
Well, according to them, it should be a supermax in some remote high desert area because they're terrified of what will happen to their town if those people that you and I know are just ordinary, hardworking neighbors come to town. They don't
They
have a
have to worry
sense
more
that
about the guards than they do the people that they're doing the guard, that they're guarding. It's like
they don't have a sense of who undocumented people are. That there's a sense of the other. There's a sense that they are people they've never met and are nowhere near like them.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
through journalism that you're doing and activism that I'm doing and just talking to each other and communicating and connecting that we help our more conservative neighbors understand that these people in the detention centers that are being detained are just like us. They're people just like us, and they're ordinary, hardworking people with a dream.
And that's what we do here. We're highlighting. You see me check my phone now because we have another guest coming up after this. Is Amir, and his spouse is currently being held in Adelanto, in the Adelanto facility, the detention center there in California. Before we let you go, though, I'm texting Amir. We're ready here for you, Amir. We're ready. And in true fashion here, I'm an independent journalist doing all this myself. Before we let you go, what do we need to know? What questions aren't being asked about this? How do people, I have so many other questions. How do people get involved and follow this stuff? Where can they follow you? But I guess first and foremost, what's the question people aren't asking about this that you wish they were?
I wish people were asking, how does this affect those who are detained? And you and I are asking that question, but millions of folks who are ordinary, faithful, loyal citizens of the United States are not fully understanding the humanity, the common humanity of those who are being detained. And, by watching the guests that you're going to have up next is how they can connect with these folks. I really understand that it is a long-term prospect of cultivating across this political barrier and across this polarization that's occurred because of the massive amount of propaganda lies that's being fed into the minds of people who believe it.
And they're absorbing it. I feel like Trump in a lot of ways is a reflection of the best of us, and that's not a compliment. Like, we're this reality TV show country, and we elected a reality TV show president. And I'm guilty of it too. Like, I love wrestling. I love WWF, and I had little, I was a little Hulkamaniac and stuff growing up, and loved Ultimate Warrior, and back in the 90s resurgence of The Rock, and Trump was right in that, and that is still so incredibly popular. And we call him on this show the WWE president because he is an incredible master at manipulating the media and controlling a narrative and the crowd and getting, all of that stuff plays into the optics of all of this, and
don't underestimate our adversary. You see his cunning and his effectiveness, and don't underestimate the millions of people who follow him. They're ordinary people with their own hopes and dreams and fears. And we've got to be able to connect with them and not demonize those people who support Trump.
To be fair, there are some rabid people on both sides that you wouldn't be able to convince them, right? They're like, they're going to die on this hill. They want to die. They don't want to live. They want to die on this issue. But I'm exaggerating to emphasize a point, but there are people, though, I think you can't be passionately moderate. I think, not to derail a conversation, but I'm doing this research and I'm going to do this story on Bobby Polito, this congressional candidate in South Texas. And he is this kind of, Democrats are getting kind of excited about him because he's turning and he's flipping red voters, but he's really looking at it more so. And I think what you and I are seeing, it's not left and right, it's top versus bottom. It's like this gap where, like, sure, the middle is kind of equal in all areas, but it's this gap of, like, people are really, really rich or they're really, really poor. And it's getting more and more of those people in those camps. And that's not okay. And so I think that is all part of what's happening here with Social Circle. It's, you have these working class people, a town of 5,000, a place that you had probably never heard of before or driven through and didn't realize you were there. And then now whoever decided, which is part of my investigation, that's what I'm going to get into. Hey, let's put it here around these folks here. This makes sense. I don't know. But thank you for helping us shine a light on this.
I'm so grateful for what you're doing and reaching out and bringing people and families affected by detention. And I really look forward to learning more from your next guest and from the continuing coverage you're doing. Thank you so much.
Oh, God bless you. Thank you. That's Gareth Fenley. And real quick before we let you go, how can we follow you? Well, I still wait for Amir to get back to me. Vamp in time. How can we follow you and see what you're doing?
Look for Indivisible Boldly Blue. That's my organization, or you can look for my name, which I think is on the screen there. If you spell it with 2 E's, Fenley, and you just Google Gareth Fenley Ice, it'll bring you a bunch of hits.
Wonderful. And that gave me enough time. It bought me time because Amir just joined the green room. So he's behind the stage here, and we're going to get to his story next. Gareth Fenley, thank you so much for giving us the highlights here and what's going on in Social Circle, the site of what could potentially be the biggest ICE detention facility in the country. We'll be following this story. I'm going to go live from there, I think, on Thursday. So we'll touch base soon. Thank you again so much.
Thanks, Nick.
Appreciate you. That was Gareth Fenley. And if you guys missed that conversation, this is what we had woken up to this morning here in Georgia, is basically this facility who, quietly ICE, is that the wrong clip? That's the wrong clip here. Anyway, ICE wants to build this facility here, and Gareth Fenley is on the front lines of trying to not make that happen. Last night, the city decided, hey, this is going to be a strain on our resources. We're cutting off the power. We're cutting off the sewage. Good luck building this facility if you do it. We talk about these facilities in terms of like money and contractors. There's real people inside. These are real lives. These are everyday citizens that are walking, non-citizens that are walking in your life that you love and interact with and may not even know that they're here without documents. There have been countless people who are not the violent criminals, countless people who have done it the right way as well, who have been caught up in this system of cruelty. And we wanted to highlight one of those stories. Before we do, we wanted to show you what happened over the weekend. There was a day of action. Some trouble with remove that. Okay, here we go. There was a rally outside of Adelanto over the weekend, and this video was filmed by our next guest, shared with us by our next guest, whose spouse is currently in that facility. Amir was describing to me the conditions, just how terrible and what his wife has to deal with. Amir, you join us live now on Nick Valencia Live. Thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. I appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much.
I'm so sorry that we see each other now like this.
Yeah, I can't believe this is actually happening. And I'm sorry I was a little bit late. First of all, it was the Eastern time, and I'm going through so many different emotions all the time. Like, I still don't understand what's happening. And it doesn't make any sense, brother. And thank you for everything that you do to bring awareness to this.
And so let's bring the awareness, man. Let's just, what happened? How did this, tell us about who your wife is and what happened?
Yeah, first of all, I've been looking at your videos, how active you are about this, and you see it and you want to throw something at the TV when you watch it, and you let it go because it hasn't personally happened to you. But when it happens to you, you just realize how real this thing is, man. And yeah, my wife, Tanya, we've been together since before the pandemic. We've been living together. She entered the country legally in 2015. She was in New York with a student visa, work visa, and she's going through I'm a U.S. citizen, by the way, and she is adjusting her status. I guess that's what I call it, the I-488 form that we filed for her. And apparently when you do things legally, that's how you give some of these guys a fresh lead to make a couple of dollars. I don't know how they get paid. I mean, who wants that job, right? And she's legal. She's applying for it. She filed the one I-30 form, I-485. She's paying her taxes, and she has done nothing but good. And they just come to her studio and at the place that she's been building a reputation for a very long time. People adore her over there. And they took her at gunpoint. And the reason that I was a little bit late because I wanted to get that, because I didn't have the nerve to look at it myself now because she's still in there. But I wanted to get the footage to just show you how they took that girl. Like, it's just unbelievable. It's like they caught El Chapo. Just a bunch of kids that get a badge and a gun. And
that's what I was just thinking. It's like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about, I don't know your wife. I've never met her, but everyone who has and talks about her that I've heard speak about her is like, Amir, you're so lucky. You have no idea. Like, she's the best thing. Don't lose this. Don't do whatever you can to keep her in your life. And I know I don't need to repeat those things because I know you know her better than anyone. And yet she's treated like this violent criminal, like she just committed the worst offense. And so I have that image in my head right now, and I'm sure that you can't get it out of yours.
Yeah, I can. And they put chains around her waist, on her feet, and unreal. They took her to the federal building downtown. I wouldn't have known if the building manager didn't give me a call. Somehow they found my number. They told me she was taken by ICE. I couldn't believe it because it didn't make any sense. And apparently the stories that I hear, the officer that took her was getting a kick out of her crying. And she said, well, he checked her name. He was actually checking her Instagram at the same time too. And he asked her if she was married. She said, yes. He put unknown. She's like, why would you do that? He said, because I don't trust you, just because I can. And do you have a criminal record? No. He put C. So they're keeping her with high-risk inmates with the orange color. Yeah, I mean,
this is the high-risk inmate that you're looking at there.
She is the sweetest thing in the world, like the closest thing to an angel. Never heard a fly. And even the time that she's there, all she's doing is just listening to the stories of the other girls that are there. And that's all she talks about when I talk to her. Because
share some of those stories with us, because they're
horrific. The worst one that she talked about, I actually saw that lady when I went to visit her. There's this lady that was in the healthcare, and he's been here for a very long time, and she's the only caregiver to a nephew, a 10-year-old nephew that she had. The nephew had lost the parents, and she's the only one supporting her financially. And she was on a ride with a friend of hers, and they got pulled over, and apparently the girl that was driving had a boyfriend that they had a fight. He reported a car stolen. So she was in the passenger seat. She had nothing to do with it. So it just showed as an arrest. They came and they took her. She's been there for 190 days. And since she's been there, the kid has died. And she's just sitting there. There is just one other lady, a Filipino lady I saw with the kids walking in. The kid was crying. You see these things, and it's just unbelievable. You feel like you live in Nazi Germany, man. And
the stories have to be so haunting. I mean, I've heard them. I've been inside some of these detention centers. We were in Camp East Montana in El Paso, where they were telling us they were dealing with this rash for 4 months. Amir, the rash was measles. They had undiagnosed case of measles, and they were telling the women to just put an ointment on it, basically take 2 of these and call me in the morning, if they were lucky to be able to see the doctor. There was a protest over the weekend. We played some of that video. You met some families there, I'm sure, people that were telling you they were in a similar circumstance. What are they saying?
There were about 18 people that died in there. And there's no care. They don't respond to pretty much anybody. Very poor conditions. The food, it's not even food. And they get commissary. It's all about the money. I found out that they get a certain amount of money per person that comes in, and when they come in, the money that immediately they get for the commissary, the communication, let alone the bond they're gonna do, it's just a business, and they're keeping these people hostage. I mean, okay, yeah, there are 1, 2, 3, a few handful of people that they actually committed a crime. They have to be incarcerated anyways, but the majority have done nothing wrong, man. And it's just so painful to watch that this is happening and nobody's doing anything about it. And they just do whatever they want. And
it's more painful because you guys did this the right way, and she came in through the country legally. That's why it has to be so much more painful.
What else you got to do? What else do you have to do to just come for a better future? You work your ass off. You just do everything right. You pay your taxes. You're married. I'm a citizen. I've paid my dues of all people, and this is what we have to go through right now. And this is just us, man. There's so many stories in there that, like, there are so many bigger problems people have that it's just not right. And
do you think people are starting to understand and wake up to what's happening? Those that may have initially supported this and thought, okay, man, I didn't vote for this. I don't want this,
Yeah, nobody did, man. Who doesn't want the criminals out of their country? Who's
right.
rooting for the criminals? Yeah, but that's not what they're doing. They're going after easy targets. It's illegal to be an immigrant. They treat you like this prison is literally ICE prison. I saw footage of the inside, the bunk beds. They barely have anything to cover themselves, a pillow, or it just. She was telling me, like, her body is starting to hurt a lot, and and once a week they can just order some stuff to make their life a little bit more comfortable, like things like water, because water doesn't really taste very good, and it's just nobody has to go through that, and they have done nothing wrong, and it's really, really, it makes me very angry, and I'm trying not to go there because I want to keep my sanity and be useful for her, but I hope people wake up to this and do something about this, because everybody that sees this happening to somebody they know, then they realize how real this thing is.
That's part of the reason why we wanted you on. We want to highlight stories like yours, highlight what's happening. Things like this are happening every single day in the United States. People's loved ones are being taken, detained, kidnapped, abducted for no reason. And, you brought up something so poignant, Amir. It's part of, you did it the right way, which may have made you vulnerable and susceptible. I've heard that before from people. There was a Russian woman whose Kurdish husband, they moved, and they were like, should we have just not told the government where we moved to our new address? Because that's where they showed up. That's where they showed up for your wife, right? Did they show up at your residence?
She's saying they followed her from the residence to her to the place that she works.
And this is how we're spending our tax dollars, right? To track Amir's violent wife, apparently her criminal wife here, that is being treated like the worst of the worst offenders. Man, it just makes me so angry, and I think that we're all angry. We're getting a bunch of comments here from you guys that are watching, people that are in our lives. Thank you so much for watching and supporting all this stuff, man. It pisses me off for you. And the only way that I know my weapon is this platform, right? Is like, let's give this spotlights. Let's shine the spotlight where there's darkness, where people need to understand what they're dealing with. Everyday people who are adding value, who are moving in good faith, like your wife, like you. That's who's being caught up in this wide dragnet, and people are making money off of this.
And just to mention this, we talked about the darkness of it, but on the other hand, there is the light. There is some volunteer people that do a lot of work. They immediately, they gave me a number. I reached out. They tell you, like, they calm you down. They're like your therapist. They tell you what to do next. And those are the immigrants that they're taking care of other immigrants, and they volunteer, and God bless them. They're still good people in this world, man.
What is next, Amir? What is next for your case and for your wife?
Trying to see if we can push a bond hearing, because apparently they're very busy, and to get her in front of a judge to say, why is she here?
Well, that's a habeas corpus petition. There's protesting as well that's being done. You have a fellowship behind you. You have a community that loves you. You have, and there are people that have been on here, and I hope that, they've gotten back to you. I try to connect you with the group offline. Amir and I, in full disclosure, we know each other. We've been friends for probably about 2 years now, maybe a little bit more, and he's, he came to me. I heard about this from another friend of ours, and then we talked, and I just had to highlight the story, especially after the protest over the weekend. What can we do to support you, Amir? Do you guys have a GoFundMe? Is there anything that that you'd like to say, or for us to know of how we can support you?
No, I just please just pray for her to be out. She doesn't deserve it. I'm doing everything that I can right now, and I just can't wait to bring her home and try to erase it from our memories and help other people that are going through it, because now I know, at least, and I know what conditions people are living under and how unjust a lot of things are.
We wish you didn't, man. We wish that you didn't know this and that no one else finds out after you. It's just, that's why we keep fighting. God bless you, Amir, man. Thank you so much for taking the time with Nick Valencia Live. God bless you, brother. I'll call you later. Love you so much.
Love you.
All right, take care. That was Amir, whose wife is detained, whose wife is being treated like the worst of the worst. I'm going to put this full screen. So this is this beautiful family here that is being torn apart. They rescue animals. If you guys love animals, I mean, this is the kind of people that the Trump administration is going after. People that take in strays, people that take in hurt animals that need to be tended to, cared for. It's crazy to me. Sorry. Some comments coming in here. I want to read them. Michelle Gordon says, I hate this for anyone living like this. I'm hoping many will see this. I'm so sorry to all. And then Nat, thank you so much for sharing your story, Amir. Yeah, I mean, it's powerful. I mean, it's I hear these stories all the time, but it hurts more when you hear it from somebody that you know personally. And I don't need to experience this myself. I have been in these detention centers, fortunately or unfortunately. I know exactly the type of situation and scenario that his wife is in right now, and that every single person that is detained is in right now. And are these places where they're beating the hell out of them every single day, and this rite of passage? I don't know. In some cases, I'm sure the guards are especially violent, but like, these are places where you just sort of wilt away. And in my experience, in the several that I've been in, more recently, this newest edition, the Camp East Montana, they're like put up with this new material that looks cheap. It looks like the fastest way you could get it done, and let's get the biggest profit margins and make everything just so stale and bland. It just feels like you're in this, I don't know, man, like, I just think of Silence of the Lambs, where Dr. Lecter was in this like white insane asylum type thing, and that weighs on your psyche. That just like weighs on me thinking about it. And that's what his wife is in every single day, and what others that we love and we know, and people who have been interacting and intersecting with our lives every day, that's what they're in right now. And so, yeah, we need to keep fighting the good fight. Thank you so much, David, for saying that. And thank you guys for all being engaged and commenting. Everyone that's watching this on replay, we play this at 1 p.m. Eastern and 9 p.m. Eastern as well. We also, before we let you go here, we wanted to talk about this event that we have coming up here in LA. I'll add that. Live from LA, ICE, the impact on food, should say foods, health and community in LA. We are going to be hosting our show live, Nick Valencia Live, NVN, March 24th, BLVD Market in Montebello, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And afterwards, we're going to be chilling. We're going to be hanging out, man. No RSVP needed. Show up, grab some food and drinks, show some love to the food hall owned by Barney Santos. Watch your show together. And then afterwards, meet us, chill with us, hang out. We have a big audience in Los Angeles. We have folks that have said they're going to show up. I don't want to give away the surprise appearances, but there will be guest appearances here. I'll just put it like that. Recorded messages, and then people in person as well that we have heard. You guys might know their faces if you see them. They're going to show up, show love. We'll have Gustavo Arreano, Alexis Aleman, and of course, Barney Santos there. And then we're going to be continuing on this PBS style fundraiser. Last time I was live here with you guys on Thursday, I told you guys like it is. Look, that we were at an intersection and a crossroads with this independent media platform. We had been spending a lot of our own money trying to keep this operating and keep this going. And we have made some money. I don't want to come up here and say, hey, look, we're broke because we don't make shit. You guys have shown up and you have stepped up and donated to us and really given me and the small team of people that we have around us, i.e. my wife, Natalie Hernandez, you've given us hope as like what we're doing is actually good and that you want us to keep doing it. We know it's good. We know that we want to keep doing it, but now it's cool to see that you guys want us to keep doing it. That's really cool. That's really fun. I guess I've known that it's just the affirmation that, we have something to offer here. And we're taking steps at a new business approach. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I have been putting out a lot more Substack articles, really dedicating a lot of stuff that's happening over there. We're going to start doing some tiered layers of like what you get for what you pay for. And in the spirit of that, on Friday, I will do my first Ask Me Anything only for paid subscribers. So I'm going to host this probably around the same time. I'll throw it in the Discord on our Substack channel, but this will only be for Substack. We stream live to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Substack, but this paid tiers and, in the spirit of like really leaning into the subscription-based model, which has helped support us so far, we're going to be doing this only for our paid subscribers on Substack. Ask Me Anything. Nothing's off the table. I mean, especially if you guys are paying for it, it's not much either, guys. It's $8 a month, $50 a year. You could be a $150 founding member. We think that's a fair rate. That's that's market value. I mean, like below market value. I don't know. I get so weird talking about money, but I need to fucking get over it because I'm a small business owner and I need to just, dive into this. So I did that last week. I ripped the Band-Aid. I was honest and truthful with you guys. We are incredibly successful editorially, but we need some help on the business end, and we're getting that. Thank you to my friend Jordan, who stopped by this past weekend and helped me out with some strategy and technology. And also, can't wait to see you guys next week. Let me put this up one more time before we leave. I'll put it up full screen, live. Nick Valencia live, NVN, ICE, the impact of food. NVN live from LA, ICE, the impact on food, health, and community in LA, Tuesday, March 24th, BLVD Market in Montebello, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. is the live show. We'll be there to 9 p.m. And that is our show for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for sticking with us, hanging out with us, for listening to the story of Amir, whose wife is currently in a Adelanto detention center, and also for the breaking news that we had of the developing story here, just about an hour away from where I'm sitting here in this shed. We didn't even talk about the shed today. The site that's being built by ICE, they want to turn an old warehouse into what will, they hope, be the largest ICE detention center in the country in Social Circle. It's a town of 5,000. They want to swell it, if ICE has its way, to the size of 15,000. And overnight, the city decided, nah, fuck that, man. We're cutting off the power. We're cutting off the water. We're cutting off the sewage to you guys. Good luck. Have fun. We're going to be live from Social Circle on Thursday. At least that's the plan. And we're going to be digging in much more to the information provided by our first. I have no idea what happened there, guys. I'm sorry. The feed cut out. It just like kicked me out. I'm still getting used to running the show by myself. We'll just call this the post show. Thank you guys for everyone that joined the show today, for sticking around with us, for helping us make truth go viral. And as always, guys, have a great day on purpose. Don't forget to donate, subscribe. That's how it keeps going. Thank you guys. See ya.